Imagine a region that has been Russia's strategic jewel suddenly slipping from its control. Crimea, the heart of the Black Sea conflict, is witnessing unprecedented developments. Russian forces are trapped, Ukrainian troops are advancing, and the world watches a potential turning point in the war. What exactly is happening, and why could this change the course of history? Stay tuned. You won't believe the latest updates from Crimea. Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into a dramatic shift on the global stage. Crimea, once firmly under Moscow's grip, is now facing instability that could have major consequences for Russia. Over the past weeks, Ukrainian forces have launched precise operations, surrounding key Russian positions and striking at critical supply lines. Analysts say this could be one of the most significant setbacks for the Kremlin in recent years. In this video, we'll break down the latest updates, the impact on Russian military operations, and what this could mean for the future of the region. If you've been following the Russia-Ukraine conflict, you'll want to stay glued to every detail we uncover here. By the end of this video, you'll understand why Crimea is at a crossroads and why the world is paying attention. Ukrainian forces have made bold moves in recent weeks, advancing deeper into Crimea than many anticipated. Intelligence reports indicate that several Russian units are now isolated, struggling to maintain communication and resupply. The Ukrainian strategy combines high-tech surveillance, drone strikes, and targeted artillery attacks, effectively cutting off critical Russian positions. Military experts describe this as a textbook example of modern warfare, small, coordinated units creating chaos in a previously well-defended area. The psychological impact is just as significant. Russian troops are facing uncertainty, and morale is reportedly plummeting. As this situation unfolds, the question arises, can Moscow regain control, or has a turning point been reached? The Ukrainian push into Crimea is not just about territory, it's about sending a clear signal to the world that Russia's hold on the region is far from secure. Russia is now grappling with major challenges on multiple fronts. Supply lines have been disrupted, frontline communications are intermittent, and reinforcements are struggling to reach embattled units. Satellite imagery shows Russian troops in defensive positions, often trapped in vulnerable areas with limited options. Commanders are reportedly making desperate calls to regroup, but the situation on the ground is increasingly chaotic. This setback highlights the vulnerabilities in Russian strategy, revealing that sheer numbers and firepower are not enough to hold Crimea. Analysts warn that prolonged Russian instability in the region could have ripple effects across the Black Sea and beyond. For Russia, the stakes are enormous. And for Ukraine, this is a moment to capitalize on momentum while the Kremlin scrambles to respond. Crimea has long been considered a strategic jewel. Its Black Sea ports are vital for naval dominance, and the region's infrastructure supports Russia's military logistics. Losing control over Crimea would not just be a symbolic blow, it would disrupt Moscow's ability to project power in the region. Ukraine's push threatens to sever these logistical lifelines, potentially isolating Russian forces from reinforcements and supplies. Experts argue that if Crimea slips entirely from Russian control, it could redefine the balance of power in Eastern Europe. The stakes are higher than ever, and both sides are fully aware of what's at risk. Understanding Crimea's strategic importance helps us grasp why the current events are so critical to the larger Russia-Ukraine conflict. Amid the military maneuvers, civilians in Crimea are caught in the crossfire. Reports indicate disruptions to basic services, shortages of food and medicine, and growing fear among local populations. Humanitarian groups are struggling to provide aid in areas under siege. The psychological impact on civilians is profound, as uncertainty and danger become daily realities. For many residents, the conflict is no longer distant news. It's a lived experience of fear and instability. The humanitarian angle adds a deeply human dimension to this strategic conflict, reminding us that war isn't just about territory and military objectives. It's about people whose lives are upended. The world is watching Crimea closely. Governments, defense analysts, and international organizations are assessing what this means for regional stability. Western nations have expressed support for Ukraine's sovereignty while cautioning against escalation. Moscow, meanwhile, faces growing scrutiny as its military setbacks become increasingly visible. Economists and political analysts warn that continued instability in Crimea could trigger sanctions, affect global markets, and shift alliances. International attention underscores how a local battlefield can have global consequences, proving that the Crimea situation is far from just a regional issue. What happens next in Crimea could redefine the Russia-Ukraine conflict. If Ukrainian forces maintain momentum, Russia could be forced into a strategic withdrawal or desperate counteroffensives. Conversely, if Moscow stabilizes its positions, the situation may remain a tense stalemate. Analysts are divided, but one thing is clear: the current trajectory has already shaken Russian confidence. For Ukraine, success in Crimea could bolster morale and international support, while for Russia, even a partial loss would represent a significant political and military embarrassment. The coming weeks will likely determine whether Crimea becomes a symbol of Ukrainian resilience or a prolonged battleground of uncertainty. Military experts emphasize that modern warfare is as much about strategy and intelligence as it is about firepower. Ukraine's ability to disrupt Russian logistics and encircle troops demonstrates a deep understanding of operational tactics. Meanwhile, Russia's miscalculations are under the microscope, revealing weaknesses in planning and resource allocation. Analysts also warn of potential escalation if Moscow attempts risky maneuvers to reclaim lost ground. For students of global conflict, Crimea provides a real-time case study in how strategy, technology, and human factors intersect in high-stakes scenarios. Observing these developments offers invaluable lessons in both military science and geopolitical strategy. The crisis in Crimea has broader implications for Russia. Politically, it undermines public perception of military competence. Economically, it disrupts resource distribution and heightens the risk of sanctions. Strategically, losing Crimea would weaken Russia's influence in the Black Sea and Eastern Europe. Domestically, Kremlin leadership faces pressure to explain setbacks and restore credibility. The combination of military, political, and economic stressors could force Moscow to rethink its priorities and strategy in Ukraine. In essence, the unfolding events in Crimea are not just a battlefield story. They are a test of Russia's resilience on multiple levels. Crimea stands at a historic crossroads. Ukrainian advances, Russian setbacks, civilian hardship, and global attention converge to create a moment that could redefine the region. What happens next will ripple across Eastern Europe and influence the broader geopolitics of the 21st century. If you want to stay updated on every breakthrough and strategy shift in this evolving conflict, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Comment below with your thoughts. Do you think Crimea will stay under Russian control, or is this the beginning of a major turning point for Ukraine? We'll continue bringing you the latest, so stay tuned, because the story in Crimea is far from over.